going on, guys? Welcome back to another episode of the After Credit Scene. We're talking about episode 7 of Agatha All Along. Before we get started, you know the drill. Hit the button, do all the things, subscribe, share the video all across the multiverse. Thanks for watching, guys. This episode was phenomenal as well. I think the show keeps getting better. The centrality of Patti LuPone's Lilia throughout this episode was really great, highlighting her powers and letting that be the main focus of the episode was really great. And for all the twists and the time jumps and the things like that, was a very straightforward and simple episode in terms of what happened, how it happened, and the storyline. But it was really a lot of payoff from different scenes that didn't make a lot of sense early on in the show and seeing how they all came together. So several episodes ago, Lilia reminds not just the viewers but the characters in the story that she's not, she doesn't predict the future. It's more about understanding time and how she relates to it. So she can see certain things, but a lot of it is how it relates to her, reading the cards and those kind of things. So her ability is kind of twofold, but it's all centered around her ability, in addition to the cards, to be able to know what's coming, how it's coming, and interpret those things. And I thought it was a really cool way to show that in terms of how does witchcraft work, that it was more or less like a superpower, an ability that through the cards and those kind of things that it allowed her to be able to make sense of how her power was working. And so we got a lot of back and forth between Lilia as a young girl, Lilia early on, before they get on the road, Lilia on the road, and a lot of these different scenes and things where it looks like Lilia's going crazy, where she's actually, the future versions of herself are bleeding through into specific moments. So she's warning Alice Wu to not trust Agatha. She's talking to the past version, or what she thinks is the past version of her dead mentor, when in reality it's all bleeding together. And it all comes together in the fourth challenge, which is a tower, and where Lilia has to read the cards. There's a lot of different little Easter eggs in terms of things on the bookshelf. The colors in this one were a lot more pronounced as Lilia's walking towards her challenge. The roots glow yellow when the doors open, as they have the realization of who Rio is. As the doors to the Iron Maiden open and they leave the challenge, the roots are glowing green. And so a whole lot of little Easter eggs going on in there. But let's just talk about the few big things that happened in here. First off, the reveal that Rio is Death, the original Green Witch. Some of the Funko Pop leaks and pre-releases kind of gave some of that away if you were paying attention to that. But if you weren't, it was a really great episode nonetheless, even if you did know what was coming. And talking about Rio being Death maybe explains some different things that are going on, maybe explains her relationship with Agatha a little more. Maybe Rio was the one that had to take Nicholas Scratch away from Agatha. Maybe the Darkhold plays into all that. I think episodes 8 and 9 we're really going to get a lot of that and get those explanations. If you watched my last prediction video, I threw out a lot of possible scenarios, one of which included dealing with either Rio or the Salem 7 before we got to episodes 8 and 9. And the Salem 7 thing certainly came true as the Salem 7 closes in on Agatha and the Coven. Lilia realizes that it's her job to protect the Coven. And I thought the through line that started off very small but really built in this episode, that this group of witches is a family, is a coven, was really, really well done and really well pointed out. And I think that is the ultimate goal of the Witch's Road. Not just for everybody to get this one thing that they want, but I think as a coven, they're growing closer together. The road is challenging them each individually, and then when they get together, their wish at the end, their each individual wishes at the end, theoretically would be something that makes the coven stronger, and not just something that they can go off and do on their own. They're going to have to basically decide between themselves and family, or individuality and selfishness. And so the only hiccup there is they're talking a lot about covens. They're talking a lot about family. The family's getting smaller. Alice Wu is dead. There's some theories floating around out there that Jen may want to leave the road as well, given the conversation she has with Lilia about the subway early on in this episode, and then the fact that Lilia died at the end of this episode makes it appear as though maybe Jen is going to kind of go off on her own, and that Agatha and Billy are going to be the ones left over. There's a possibility here, and we'll get into it in some prediction videos on Monday, that the Witch's Road is going to be finished by one or two people. However, I still think that not just because of death, but because of Rio, but because of the way that the Witch's Road functions, I don't think everybody's actually dead. I think when they come out of the Witch's Road, those people will be either spat back out, or they will find them at the end of the road somehow, because all this talk of coven and family and growing the coven stronger, but you're losing people in your coven, doesn't really track. And so I think those things are going to come back together. I think Rio has the ability to bring people back. Now, whether she does or not, or whether it breaks some kind of rule, remains to be seen. But I thought all those different elements really coming together to lead towards episode 8 and 9, where we deal with Billy's challenge, how Rio connects with that, which I think Agatha's connection with Billy in terms of her connection with Wanda, her connection with her own son, and then death being a part of that as well. The final challenge looks to take place in a morgue or a coroner's office. The walls, it looks a little bit like a psych ward, and they're dressed kind of that way. But I really think, and you can see the doors on the walls, that this is a morgue, which would really fit not just Billy's narrative of everyone he knows being dead and gone, and him trying to figure out who he is, but also the possibility of maybe bringing back other characters, Rio being revealed as Death, and then Agatha coming to grips with all the things that she's done. This death metaphor here really playing center stage. And I would say we could go to the Ballad of the Witch's Road to see what's coming next, but there's quite a few lines left after Death's Hand in Mine, which is the name of this episode, that you could pull from, and I think that's done intentionally so you don't really know exactly where they're going, but I think there's some twists yet to come, more so than just wrapping this up in a nice bow. And so if you go back and look through the Easter eggs, there's plenty of them. I think Lilia's description of each one of the characters and going back through their stories and who they are, Lilia being the Queen of Cups with the tarot card reading, Alice was the Knight of Wands, which is also interesting that she's playing the drums, the Knight of Wands. She's playing the drums in her challenge. Jen as the High Priestess, Agatha being the Three of Swords, and maybe where her, what three swords are attacking her, or is she attacking with. I think all the metaphors you could go pretty wild with and look into the tarot card readings. That is a very deep rabbit hole that you can go down on your own that I'm not going to really dive into because it takes a long, long time. The Tower reversed being Billy, this idea that there's change and metamorphosis and all these kind of things. And then Rio being Death really brings all of these characters together and makes them a very, not just a unique coven, but a unique group of people together. And I think the dynamic is going to play front and center as they move into the last several episodes, particularly with Agatha's relationship with Rio and Billy. And so the Salem 7 being taken care of was actually really great. I think they were a nice little side story and a reminder of where Agatha came from, but having the coven take care of them and Agatha's moving on to more important things, I liked that they kind of took care of that. Agatha's still going to have to come to grips with what she did to cause those things, and everybody else making sacrifices for her along the way is really going to play into her need and her desire for her redemption arc, for her to play the sacrificial character for somebody else. And so it's going to be very interesting building into the last two episodes. Curious to see what you guys think. Add your comments down below. Check out our video on Monday where we'll talk about predictions for episode 8 and 9, which both come out next Wednesday, October 30th. And as always, guys, do the things, hit the buttons, share, subscribe, like this video. Check out some of our other content. We got lots of different things you can watch and catch up with. And as always, guys, when the next one drops, we'll catch you right back here. Later.